So in this video, I would like to smoke a cigar and talk about the master's, a master's program experience that I had, as well as what I heard from the friends that I have, the people that are doing masters in my circle. And I'd like to also, by the end of this video, tell you a bit about a master's thesis and how the procedure goes, and how to approach this in the best way possible. So this is Don Thomas, a cigar which was handmade in the Dominican Republic. Now this is gonna help me really focus on this audio, let's say. So don't mind if I do, and if you enjoy it, then light up one yourself or get a cup of coffee, and hopefully this session is gonna be enjoyable. So I am approaching the end of my master's program. I've been writing my master's thesis already for the past 6 months. Not that I've been writing full time. I have definitely been working on it half time. Meanwhile, working at a company which gave me the master's thesis. And I have taken around 15 master's courses to be able to start my master's thesis in the university. So I'm basically at the end of the journey, and it went pretty fast, I should say. Now, I'm doing my master's in the Technical University of Munich, which is considered one of the best technical universities for aerospace programs, for aerospace studies in Germany. And although Germany is not the best in the world in this sphere, it is still pretty influential overall. So coming to Germany was a decision that I made after long hours of thinking. But having been accepted to Technical University of Munich, I immediately packed my stuff, made a really solid plan, and started studying here. Now, I'm not gonna go ahead and say that doing a master's in Germany is easy. Definitely, there's a lot of bureaucratic complications that have to be taken into account. Starting with the student's visa, for which you have to be registered here in a house. So if you can't find a house to stay in the beginning, then it's a little problematic. And continuing with the educational system here, because in Germany, even in masters, you have to write exams. And although you only write the final exam here, so no midterms or quizzes, that final grade is the deciding factor if you're passing the course or not. Which to me sounded pretty scary in the beginning, because I'm a grown man and they decide if I pass a course or not just by one grade, the final exam grade, which was pretty stressful. So I should probably say that a lot of the people that I know do masters because they don't know what to do after school. But I'm sure that it's not like that everywhere. I'm sure that people want to continue studying after bachelor's because they find it not enough, or they just feel like they're gonna get a better salary and with the experience that master's is going to provide them with. The main reason of me doing my master's was because I really like the academic point of view in engineering. I learned how to study late in my university, and I was able to fully embrace the potential only in the last 1.5 years of my studies in the university. And after completing my bachelor's, I realized that I would like to continue studying, because I heard that the salaries are better if you finish a master's program. And I also learned that you can specialize, and that's what I wanted. Having done my bachelor's, I felt like I'm really spread out, because in the bachelor's program, you basically take a little bit of everything. In my case with engineering, you have to take a course from every walk of engineering. And although that might be beneficial for you to get some basic knowledge about everything and be able to make sense of important basics at work in the future, for me that was definitely a bit disappointing by the end, because I knew a little bit of everything but not a lot of something. And I realized that I want to continue my education. So I applied to Technical University of Munich, and luckily I got accepted, but I got accepted conditionally. So when I came to Munich, I had to pass one exam, and I luckily passed it as well. They gave me enough time to prepare for it. They gave me 2 attempts, and I passed it in the first attempt because I was super excited and I didn't want to lose my master's opportunity here. Also, the conditions in the country where I am right now are way better than where I was before my master's. Although I had a solid job opportunity in Turkey and I was already doing my long-term internship, I decided that leaving Turkey for a while would be better for me in terms of getting more experience and hopefully improving myself in a way that I wouldn't be able to in a master's program in Turkey. I wanted it to be completely in English, and I wanted it to be in a top university, and the Technical University of Munich is in the top 30 in the world for aerospace, for masters. That's why I knew that this would be better than anything else where I was. Also, the reason I came to Germany is because my girlfriend lives here. That was the main motivation behind me applying to Germany in the first place. Because I had friends that were applying to Canada, I had friends that were applying in Turkey, but I didn't really want to go far. I wanted to continue my relationship, and it's still going on well. So that was one of the biggest motivations for me to pursue my master's in Germany and not elsewhere. But let's go now into the answers to the questions. Is it worth doing a master's degree, or why do you do a master's degree, and what happens in the end? So a master's degree is definitely something deeper than a bachelor's, and it depends on the country where you are, because in Germany a master's degree is pretty similar to bachelor's. You still take courses, theoretical courses, practical courses. You take a lot of them, you have to pass them, and only then you can actually start working in the company where they give you harder tasks, so to say, or you can start writing your master's thesis. And here I wrote 2 theses. The second one I'm finishing still, but the first one was like a trial thesis, although it was of the same complexity as a real master's thesis. I would say that a master's program is meant to involve you in the field of your interest a bit deeper than a bachelor's program. I feel like if you start your bachelor's at 18 or 19 years of age, you still won't be able to grasp the full scope of whatever you're studying as much as you would be able to grasp it at a master's level at the age of 22 or 23, 24, 25. Of course, there are some people that start masters later after gaining some work experience, and that's even better. I would say that masters is something that you do when you have grown into a more understanding individual, an individual that realizes why he's doing it and why he wants to do it in the first place. So, yes, studying a master's just because you want to continue education, but don't know what exactly you want from it, is a possible thing, and it could leave you satisfied afterwards. For instance, if you finished your bachelor's or you're about to finish your degree and you don't know what to do next, but you definitely do not want to begin working. You want to continue learning because you like being a student and you enjoyed the process. Then definitely master's is for you. Because in master's you're going to be studying a lot. You're going to be studying deeper topics and you will have to understand them better, because in the end you will present a thesis that involves writing something novel about a concept that is not so easy to understand at the beginner's level, right? Also, doing a master's, if you want to just earn more from your profession in the end, works as well. I have heard a lot that many companies pay more to master's graduates than to bachelor's graduates, and I can make sense of it, because graduating a master's program really requires you to understand the topic or understand the field at a different level. It requires you to know better. It requires you to have put a lot more effort and time. Definitely you would have done more in terms of workload finishing a master's than bachelor's, and therefore companies are happier to hire a master's graduate and pay them more than to hire a bachelor's graduate and pay them less. That's what my experience tells me. Although in other countries it may not be true, I have still seen that in developing countries and already developed countries, finding a job at a master's graduate level is easier, or at least getting an internship at a really good company, or starting to earn, is a bit easier for a master's level student, although for bachelor's it's also possible. Now the world is changing, and what I have observed is that in order to be able to proceed with a career, nowadays a bachelor's degree is not enough. I know in many countries, like in the States, in the United States of America for instance, finding a job unless you're very, very special is difficult. And to be very special, you must have done several internships. You must have what the others don't have. But not everybody goes and does masters. The numbers of students doing masters are increasing. In front of my eyes, for instance, in the Technical University of Munich, when I began, there were 200 people in the WhatsApp group of masters in aerospace. Now it's 850. The numbers are crazy. And of course, with more people going to study masters, the companies are going to definitely raise their standards. So at one point, if you really want to work for someone in your specific area, I'm not saying just any job, but in your specific field, for instance, you're an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer, then doing a master's will become a must. That's what I'm thinking for now. This is my projection. So if you have started a master's, or if you're thinking to, that is definitely worth it. In that sense of things, from the standpoint of the ease of application, the ease of finding a job, and of course a raised salary, that is great. But you have to also think that it's plus 2.5 years of your life. I don't believe that a master's can be completed in 2 years or under 2 years. And if it is, then I don't believe that it's worth doing. Honestly, 2 years is a really, really short span of time. 2 years is something where you just find a place to stay, you get accustomed to the study program, and that's it, right? But there's also the work side of things, writing a master's thesis. So if you are thinking of doing a master's, I would definitely suggest to not apply to programs that promise a 1 year of master's. Of course, that depends on your field. I mean, doing a master's in economics or doing a master's in business administration, MBA, is definitely different than doing a specialized master's in some field of engineering or law or whatever. Yeah. And I'm not saying this to downgrade those professions, not at all. It is just the way it is. The master's programs there are shorter. by nature. But if you want to definitely get more specialized or take more out of your master's, and complete it successfully, then even if the program is 2 years, you might want to take your time. You might want to just take your time. Because during your master's, you will probably need to work. I don't think that at a master's level or at this age, somebody's going to be paying for your life unless you're with a scholarship. And even if you're with a scholarship, they will require you to be successful, to be good at your courses. So you would have to definitely pay more attention in the class, write your exams better, and retake them if you have to. Yeah, so masters is not just about having more experience in the end or getting a higher salary. For me, it was about also devoting 2.5 years of my life for something that was pretty hectic. And this means instability for 2.5 years. This means the downside of being a student. In many countries, you cannot work full-time as a student, and you shouldn't because you have your studies. In many countries, you're not allowed to get a permanent residency permit as a student. You have to be able to work here. So these types of things make it harder for a person to spend 2.5 more years of his life being a student. But of course, there are benefits too. For instance, in some countries as a student, your visa process is a bit easier than if you're applying as a potential worker. In some countries, you get some benefits like better healthcare for less money. You get some discounts, definitely, for your living costs. You could have reduced prices in public transport. You could have reduced prices and everything else. But honestly, if you were working, you wouldn't even be bothered by these things. So there's more downsides than upsides when it comes to the adult life as a master's student. Yeah, I guess it's like having a child. You have to take care of a child while working at the same time, right? And of course, you have to take care of yourself. So doing bachelor's, the first experience that you have with university is basically having fun. But doing master's is like facing the adult life while you have to study. And many people will still see you as a student. They will consider you as a student. And you will not get that adult pass anywhere you go. That sucks. But that's also something as part of it. In the end, you get the benefits, right? So you might as well just hold on tight for 2.5 years and go through it. Now here's my advice with the masters. Do not take more time than you need to. There are people that were hit with the corona, and so the program changed a bit and they had to join the lessons online and they weren't used to it, etc., etc. And their 2-year master program became a 5-year nightmare. There are some that go into masters because they just wanted to go and live in another country. And so many things get in the way, like finding a house, finding a job, being able to survive in that new country. And then they have to do the masters on the side, and so they aren't able to finish the masters in the time that they were planning to. There are others that go into masters and realize that things are fine. They still get the salary, the student salary, and it's enough to pay the rent, it's enough to feed themselves. So they just sit back, relax, and take their time. They take more than 2 years, they take 3 years. It's not that there is something bad with that. I don't think so. You can enjoy your life however you want, but I feel like there are more benefits to finishing your masters sooner, getting a job and starting to work and gaining your work experience as early in your life as possible, than trying to finish your masters and taking it slow. And initially I was going into the program making a plan that I'm going to finish it in 2 years. And unfortunately, this plan didn't work because I didn't really look into the program structure so well. It turns out that we had to take around 15 courses that were theoretical, two courses that were practical. We had to write a master's thesis twice, right? And all of this, it takes more than 2 years. But there are, of course, programs that only offer like 4 theoretical courses, 2 practical courses, and 1 master's thesis. And these types of programs, I'm not saying they're easier, because of course the course load that you're gonna get per course is higher, but in the end it's less courses, so it might be a bit easier to speed the things up and finish them faster. But overall, it is definitely not advisable to prolong your masters, to do it in 3 years if you can do it in 2, to do it in 4 years if you can do it in 3. I wouldn't suggest that. I mean, I have a friend that started working at the company where I'm doing my master's thesis now. And he was at the same time a master's student in Italy. And the only thing that he has to finish his master's is to write his master's thesis. But because he started working, it's now taking him a lot longer to finish his master's. And the university doesn't have any requirements like finish your master's program in 2 years or under 3 years. So he's basically taking his time and trying to combine work, life, and master's. And this is complicated. So if possible, I would suggest you to work as half-time as possible during your master's, just to be able to get your money, right? You don't want to struggle. But at the same time, do your master's more than half of the time. Focus on your master's heavier than you focus on work. I know it sounds hard, because you will have to be able to provide for yourself financially, mentally, physically. You have to be able to keep yourself sane and keep your stomach full. But again, that phase where you just prolong your masters for the sake of starting to work and then marry and everything else, in my experience, that's a little bit more difficult than just finishing your masters and then continuing with your life. But you definitely do grow up a bit more than you would grow up in a bachelor's program. In the bachelor's program, you're all about making friends, having fun, and also learning the things that you need to learn. Meanwhile, in the master's, you are at the point where you decide in your life if you want to continue going or not. Nobody's forcing you to do it. It is a free choice at the end of the day. And if somebody's forcing you, then probably you should think for yourself more. But if nobody's forcing you and you just have that free choice if you want to do masters or not, then you should force yourself. You should sit down and just do it. Not get distracted by the real life things happening around you, but do it. During my master's program, I changed places. I traveled to Munich and back to Berlin around 50 to 60 times in total. I also got my driving license and I started working half-time. At the same time, I was tutoring students and walking my dog, doing a lot of things on the side, like going to the gym, trying to take care of my mental and physical health, and gardening, right? So it's not like I've been sitting without any work and just focusing on my exams. No. But at the same time, I try to avoid working part-time there where it is not related to my field. I know it is really hard to find a job in your field while you're doing your master's, but it is possible. And while it was easier for me to find a job elsewhere, I decided to devote at least 1 month to applications to companies that offer me my profession. So that's what I would suggest you to do as well if you're thinking of doing masters or you are already doing masters. Navigate to your own profession. Try not allowing yourself to work in a coffee shop. Try not allowing yourself to work in McDonald's. Try to really take everything you can from the masters. Try applying to companies, doing internships, improving yourself in that field where you're specializing. doing whatever it takes to combine your work with your master's. For instance, some programs allow you to do internships instead of taking practical courses. Do that. Some companies accept master's thesis and allow you to write your master's thesis at the company while paying you, and your university is also happy because you're done with your master's thesis in the end. Do that. But try not combining your master's program with a job that makes you more relaxed in a sense, that gives you money but not experience in your own field. And this is what my girlfriend told me in the beginning, and I thought, this is impossible. I need to earn money and the job market sucks, so I won't be able to find a job. But I really applied as much as I could, and I found it. And all the friends that came with me to Munich found a job as well. They did. Most of them found a job in the university, but they're still getting the pay that they would give you at a job. And some of them found a job in great companies in their fields, computer engineers, aerospace engineers, and they are continuing there, which is great. So I guess there shouldn't be anything to stop you from trying to find a job while you're doing your master's in your own field and work there part-time. Not full-time, part-time. Full-time is going to take you away from your master's program. And finally, I guess it would be useful to talk about a thesis, because this is the biggest thing in the master's program, and that's how it is different from bachelor's programs. Although in some bachelor's programs you still write a thesis, a master's thesis is, I guess, something different, and it is worth doing it right. So how do you write a master's thesis right? Well, I've seen how people do it wrong, so I guess it's worth talking about that. I had a friend that started writing a master's thesis in the aerospace engineering program on a computer science topic, and he wasn't even specialized at computer science. It is not to shame him or say that he's doing something wrong, it is just to say that it's harder than doing something that you already know. Your whole master's will be going somewhere. They'll be guiding you in a direction. You will be taking courses that are meant to help you specialize. You will be gaining experience in the field that you'll be working in. So why go and write a master's thesis about a topic that you have no idea about when you were offered to learn something in detail for the past couple of months? I guess that doesn't make sense. So what I'm trying to say is, I think writing a master's thesis on a topic that you're familiar with and that you want to improve yourself more at is way better than writing a master's thesis in a topic where you are completely new and you have no idea. The reason why I say this is because 6 months for a master's thesis, and by the way, sometimes it's more, yeah, but let's say on average, the time required to finish your master's thesis is 6 months. 6 months is not a lot of time. So you won't have time to sit down and learn something from scratch. You need to have some basic knowledge. You can learn something from scratch in 6 months and then write a thesis, but I don't know how that's gonna work out because it might not be the best work of your life. But if you write a master's thesis in something that you're specialized at or something where you already have an idea of what you're writing about, then the result would be more enjoyable to work on and read, for sure. So I guess aiming for a master's thesis on a topic that you are interested in, familiar with, or want to work on in the future is the best choice you have. And aiming for something that you're not familiar with, have to do just because you weren't able to find any other topics, or you were forced to do because they're paying you for it, I guess that would be a little more difficult. And I'm telling you this because of the following. I wrote my first thesis on aerodynamics of compressors. Compressors are those rotary parts in an airplane engine that compress the air. And I was familiar with that technology because I took courses in that area. And for me, it wasn't very hard. However, I wasn't that familiar. I wasn't in-depth familiar with compressors, and I definitely wrote a lot of useless stuff in the thesis just because I was trying to act smart, although I wasn't. On the other hand, I'm now writing a master thesis on fluid flow through internal channels of additively manufactured, so 3D printed parts, right? And I enjoy it because I know about fluid flow, especially fluid flow through pipes and things like the stuff that I'm writing about my thesis. And it's a lot easier for me. And I was able to do everything. I was able to do design, I was able to do experiments, I was able to do simulations on a computer, and now I'm summing it all up on paper. And when I'm writing about it, it is so easy to write about it that I don't even have to second doubt myself. But if it was another topic, if it was a topic that I'm not familiar with, I'm sure I would be spending days and nights just trying to find any source of information that makes sense to me, right? So doing a master's thesis on a topic that you're familiar with or you want to work on in the future is way, way, way more advantageous than doing it on something that you don't know. Believe me, you will not have enough time to cover the topic in depth while having to also research it and do something novel for your master's thesis. That's the first advice that I have. And the second advice that I have is get paid for it if you can. I know people that write a master's thesis for free just because they have to complete their master's program, and I know people that work in a company and write a master's thesis at a company and get paid for that. I'm one of them. And I'll tell you what, having to work for 6 months on a master's thesis, which is basically 30 hours a week of requirement, standard requirement in the university, you will want to get paid for that. Not because it is extremely difficult, but just because you're putting so much time and effort in it that in the end, just getting a degree is not enough. You want to get paid for that. Now, if you say, oh, I could do it also for free, no problem for me, then I ask you, why don't get paid for that if you can? I mean, you can get paid for that. The only difference is, in the free case, you just have to apply for a master's thesis with your topic to a university, wherever you're studying. And in the paid case, you have to apply to a company, agree on terms and conditions, take the thesis that they propose, bring it to university, and agree there. It is just one more step. The step of applications and the step of finding a suitable thesis for you. But it is not impossible, and you definitely do have enough time for that. I don't see a country in this world where right now it is impossible to apply and get a job. I don't. I'm sorry, but I don't. It depends on your field. If you're studying corn technologies or how to grow corn in Germany right now, then I guess it's a little hard because you don't grow corn in Germany. So you won't be able to find a job in a master's thesis. But if you're studying some engineering technologies in an engineeringly developed country like Germany or the US or Canada or China, I think it is still possible to find a company where you can write a master's thesis for. Now, as I said, it's an additional step. And it's not pleasant at the beginning. You will get a lot of rejections if you're applying to many different companies. But it's part of it. And in the end, you will have to find a job anyway. Am I wrong? You will have to find a job. And in the job, they will ask you if you have experience. Or they will ask you what you did in your master's thesis. So why not do it for a company where you get work experience, have an opportunity to stay at the end, or at least write something that an industrially known company wants from you, so that the topic of your master's thesis is also relevant to your industry. So the second advice I have is definitely try to do it for money, if you can. In some places, they give you scholarships. So the university pays for your master's program. There, I don't know if it's a good idea to go and work for another company separately, because you're already getting sponsored, you're already getting your money. But in other places, you're going to be doing your master's for free in a university which is at a paid level, like it's a really prestigious university, which is in my case. My university, when I started, was free. Now it's becoming paid. But there, you didn't get paid because there's no scholarship, no sponsorship, it's free. So you need to support yourself somehow. And here, working on a student job in your field and then later writing a master thesis in the company, I guess that's ideal. So I should say that although it is a bit more work when you have to write a thesis for a company, because a company has its own standards, they will ask for things from you. They will want you to do things their way, not your way. Of course, you will combine your way with their way, but it's going to be more their way than your way. But in the end, you're going to get paid for that. And above all, in the end, you will have the opportunity to stay in the company if you like it. So definitely apply the company that is relevant to your field. Choose a master thesis that is relevant to your interest and work on it as you have never worked before, because this is a great time to show yourself. Now, I have friends that got sponsored and they basically get their fees from the university. The university pays for their rent. They give them a monthly fee for sustenance. They give them a monthly fee for public transport, this and that, and in the end they get all the benefits. But if you're not one of those special people, which every one of us is special, but in the end you have to really find a program that pays for everything for you. So if you're not that lucky, let's say, then writing your thesis at a company is definitely a decision that's going to influence a lot. Also, writing a thesis at a company provides you with the benefit of not only experiencing the company culture, which is not so great in some cases, but in some cases is amazing, but also doing something greater than you would be able to do at home by yourself. Honestly, writing a master thesis by yourself is very limited. It's not limited on the theoretical side. You could just go on Google and find any source you want, but it's definitely limited on the practical side. Do you need to do an experiment? Do you need to do a survey? Do you need a database or a tool, a device that's going to help you conduct your master thesis experiments? I guess obtaining this from a company is going to be way easier than getting it for your own self. A company is going to provide you with the computing power, with the resources of the employees in the company that can give you advice, that can teach you during your master thesis. They can provide you with great resources. In my case, it was an infrared camera, a robotic arm, and very, very expensive test specimens that I was able to use in my master thesis. But in the case with a medical study, it would be being able to work on patients. In the case of a law study, it would be being able to work on real cases. In the case of an economic study, it would be being able to work with specialists that have an idea and being able to access databases that you wouldn't be able to access otherwise. So, long story short, I would say that doing it at the company is way better than doing it on your own. I didn't want to do my master thesis on my own. I was capable of it, I knew that. But it wouldn't suffice, neither me nor the university, if I did it on my own. Your institution is interested in something novel. They need research. And the company for whom you're gonna work is interested in workforce, in manpower. So it is a win-win situation for the three parties, you, the university, and the company. And of course, you get paid for that. So I would say, if you could do that, do that. And if you can't get paid for it, still do that, because you're doing it at a company that is going to look good on your resume. It will. It will definitely look better than doing it alone. I promise. If that company is known, and if that company is a leader in the industry, or at least a known entity in the industry, then that is going to benefit you more than doing a master thesis by yourself, because you get accustomed to a certain standard of work during your master thesis. You learn the methods of a company, you learn the slang in that company, and that is great experience that you can't obtain by yourself, even if you want to. So aim for that. In short, to summarize, I guess it is important to do a master's if you want to continue learning, if you want to get a better salary in the future, and or if you want to live in a country where you can't live otherwise, right? If you want to start living in a country without having to work full-time. If you just want to try, it is definitely worth it. I would also conclude that making your master's longer than it should be doesn't make sense. I would add to that in some cases you can accredit the courses that you have already taken your bachelor's. For instance, in my master's program, I know a person that carried 8 of her bachelor's courses to the master's program. I didn't do that. I did only 3, but it's just because I didn't want to take them again, right? So that way your master's becomes easier. And you can finish it faster. And if you have an opportunity not to work full-time, but just part-time, and the rest of the time work on your master's, then that would be my greatest suggestion. And lastly, when it comes to your master's thesis, it's a long work, so you should definitely do it for something that you're interested in, for something that you are knowledgeable in, for something that you would like to work on in the future, and if possible, you should do it with a company. If you get paid, that's perfect. If you don't, that's still good, but do it at a company and gain more experience. This is it for me. I hope this video was useful to whoever is doing masters or planning to do masters. I know there's a lot on the surface. In order to go into detail, I would have to definitely pick a specific topic and talk about it for hours. But still, I hope this surface level information was still useful, and I'll catch you in the next one.